Good morning and welcome from London's Covent Garden, which is just coming to life, which is kind of apt given that today's video is going to be discussing growth. Well, more specifically, we're going to be looking at Greiner's organisational growth model. So let's take a look. Greiner's organisational growth model lays out the series of crises that any organisation will need to navigate successfully if it wishes to grow in size. Now, before I go any further, I just want to clarify one point. Greiner is not saying that for an organisation to be successful, you have to navigate, or they have to navigate, all of these crisis points. His model specifically talks about growth. So some organisations are quite happy to stay small, and that's fine. But if they wish to grow in size, this is where Greiner's growth model really kicks in. So as we embark on growth, let's look at the first crisis point, which is the crisis of leadership. Most organisations originate with one or two or maybe three people bringing a great idea to market that people want to buy into. And everything is rosy. However, if the organisation wishes to grow, there comes a point when the founders of the organisation cannot do everything themselves. They've effectively hit the crisis of leadership. If an organisation is to successfully navigate the crisis of leadership, the answer is relatively simple. They need to hire more people, but specifically they need to hire people with skills that complement themselves. If they do this successfully, the organisation can continue to grow, but eventually it will hit the crisis of autonomy. So I want you to imagine that the organisation at this stage is still quite small. There is an organisational structure, albeit very embryonic, and the founders of the organisation have employed people who complement their own skill sets. Now, eventually, these additional employees will want to make their own decisions to actually govern the growth of the business. So the organisation hits the crisis of autonomy. Now, to navigate the crisis of autonomy, the founders will need to delegate responsibility and authority to the new team that they have created, and the organisation will continue to grow. And at this stage, you often see the organisation expanding in terms of employees, and that original group of people will hire more layers in the organisation. And again, everything is rosy and the organisation will continue to grow. But eventually, the organisation will hit the crisis of control. So the organisation has grown and expanded successfully, but now faces a new challenge, the crisis of control. Very simply, there are lots and lots of decisions being made independent of each other, and the organisation is beginning to really creak under the chaos that brings. So to continue to grow, they need to navigate this crisis successfully. Now, to successfully navigate this crisis point, the organisation really needs to introduce more controls and processes so that things are done consistently and efficiently. Now, this can be quite painful for an organisation that has really created itself in the image of creativity and being really fast and really responding to customers very nimbly. There suddenly has to be a gear change into actually creating control and process. Many organizations at this point choose to reorganize their organizational shape and structure, with roles disappearing, consolidations, all in the effort to make the organization more effective. Now, if the organization is able to land an organizational structure and introduce effective controls and processes, the organization will continue to grow until it meets the next crisis point, the crisis of red tape. The controls and processes that the organization introduced to continue to grow are now actually becoming restrictive. The organization faces increasing levels of bureaucracy as processes become restrictive to growth. Now, this can be a difficult time for the organization, and it's absolutely essential that at this point there is a strong vision and values and actually a business strategy that guides behavior, because ironically at this stage more autonomy is required. But to make sure that we don't hit another crisis of control, people need to know the guardrails. Also, we see the introduction of new, faster methodologies like Agile in order to produce products and services for customers more quickly and effectively. Now, if an organization is able to navigate this crisis point successfully, again, all is well and good until they reach the final crisis that Greiner has identified, the crisis of growth. Now, at this stage, typically we have a large organization that is very successful, that may well have dominated its market in terms of market share. So to continue to grow, the organization can't do what it's always done. To continue to grow, it needs to reinvent itself in terms of services and products it can offer new customers. Now, to navigate this stage successfully, the organisation needs to reinvent itself in terms of products and services it can offer customers. Now, sometimes those products and services come from within the organisation, or the organisation may choose to acquire another company with products and services different to its own that it can then market to customers. So there we have it, a very brief overview of Greiner's growth model. So in terms of application, I don't know about you, but I've often found myself working in an organisation that's in the midst of a crisis point. And I've found this model a really effective way of opening a conversation with a stakeholder to try and understand what might be causing a crisis point, where in fact we are, and what we need to do to continue to grow and navigate the crisis point. So, until next time.